But there's the people that are asking who took the time to be here.
We are.
I don't want to screw them over.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I submitted the group questions. Just delete those.
Yeah, whose idea was that?
No idea.
Have you thought of making Apple CarPlay available on your? Oh,
Well, we got audio happening. All right, we are up on.
yeah.
Says we're up on all the things. YouTube's keeping me.
Oh, I got to check.
YouTube's good. All right, yeah, we should be good then.
All right. Welcome everybody to these 034 Motorsport Live. We are here to answer all your questions about all things 034. Ask us anything you'd like. You can ask us about our, I don't know, what we bought for Black Friday or Thanksgiving.
I did exactly 0 Black Friday shopping.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, I did by accident buy something. Some
I usually save a couple things and then I just wait till Black Friday to buy them. Like a $120 coffee milk frother for $50.
Nice. I was checking a website for some product installation stuff, and they had the rollerblade caster wheels for office chairs.
Oh.
The other set for a $1 doorbuster because I just happened on the website at the right time. So I was like,
That's
okay,
insane.
shipped to my house. So it arrived 3 days later for $1.
Oh, thanks for telling me.
It was gone by the time I finished the checkout.
Wow. Let us know if you love us. Let us know if you hate us. We're here to solve problems and build bridges and create reconciliation. If you've been disappointed, we take a no BS approach to responding. We usually don't beat around the bush, and we deprioritize status update questions. So if you want to know when something's going to be ready or when something's done, we're probably not going to respond to it. Alrighty. So let's jump into some questions. Feel free to put your question into the browser viewing experience of your choice. These are all questions from last week.
Here we can take this.
I would deprioritize those for any new ones coming in.
There you go. That's all new.
Morning, fellas. Javon and Fifth has been answered, but what's the 034 represent? Yes, we talk about that a lot. When I first started the company, I developed a standalone electronic fuel injection controller for Audi 5-cylinder applications. And I think I just always knew it was going to be called 034 because I used to, in a previous job, there used to be this software program called EDCA, and I would spend all day researching parts in EDCA to see like what they were, what they fit, and I would cross-reference these parts using their part number through EDCA and find out, oh, this is a 1HO brake caliper. This fits Mark III Volkswagen Golfs, with certain VIN numbers. And then I would report that to the owner of the company, and then he would go off and sell those brake calipers to somebody like Worldpac or IMC or whatever. But I would use EDCA to identify what these parts fit. So I had an intimate understanding of the Volkswagen Audi part numbering system, which is a 9-digit number, typically with 3 groups of 3 numbers, and then there's typically a suffix at the end that with a letter that represents, any revisions or changes to that part. So I knew that all Audi 5-cylinder motors at the time, part numbers started with 034. So 034 was kind of a esoteric way to brand and represent the company, reinforce the fact that it was for Audi 5-cylinders. At the time, it's not as important anymore, but like in the yellow pages and stuff, the number 0 would come first. It was alphabetized as the very first. So it'd be like 0 through 10 and then A, B, C. So even now 034 always ends up at the top of alphabetized lists. And then at the time there was no company named with any numbers. Everything was 3-letter acronyms: ABD, APR, EIP, and there was Tectonics Tuning, which I always respected because they just had like a word for a name.
It was TT on all their boxes.
But then they ended up being called TT. Who else was around at the time?
There was HPA. There was
HPA was
HPP,
around.
which is kind of the same thing.
Locally ATP,
Oh, ATP was just getting started.
ATR was a thing.
ANS.
AMS, which was the one, not the one in Chicago, but the one in
It was SoCal.
Orange County. You didn't know that.
No, this is before.
There was an AMS in Orange County. That was way before the other AMS in Chicago. So anyways, as some people laugh like, oh, so you did a three number, like, okay, yeah, but it was way different. Like, it stood out, and it wasn't just another 3-letter acronym. So, anyways, that's the story. That's the backstory.
Old fashioned.
I actually, the original vintage i5s, and then in 2000. So I started the company called 034 EFI in like 2002, and then the company was still called 034 EFI in like 2005, 2004, 2005. I don't. Were you there when I went through the whole exercise to rename the company?
Just after. No,
Yeah.
I heard about all the ridiculous.
I spent months kind of coming up with different names, and I asked anyone and everyone I could find what they thought. This was kind of before the internet was, you couldn't really go online and post stuff. And I was actually really leaning towards this name, Engine Sport, which was a play off of motorsport. So it would be 034 Engine Sport. I've actually seen companies name that since that have used that name. But in the end, we stuck with 034 Motorsport because EFI was just too limiting. And I always loved.
Well, I mean, within like the first year, you'd progress to the product to progress from just injection to full ignition control and full engine management.
Well, and then we were doing other kinds of parts too,
and then also
turbos and manifolds, and and then I always loved the reference, Audi Sport. So I didn't do motorsports because I wanted to hearken to the Audi Sport name.
Yeah, and motorsports is so often like off-road. Like
motorsports
and like power sports is what,
Motorsports is more of a generic thing, but I felt like motorsport referencing Audi Sport and more of a racing, road car racing heritage. So anyways, that's where we started, and the name has worked out very well for us, I think. It's another quick story. We have a lot of questions, but the very first magazine shoot I got in, which was in the 180 Challenge in European Car. This was 2003. And so European Car put out a call to the fastest, most powerful 180s to come and do like a Eurotuner Grand Prix type competition. And which was like drag racing, dyno, road course. And so I converted a Jetta 180 with a built motor and a GT28 RS disco potato and 034 EFI on it, and we were doing like 450 wheel at the time, which nobody was doing. And so we go and we compete, we do really well, really represent ourselves. And in the magazine article, the first line is, "You may have never heard of 043 Motorsports." Just like,
thanks, Sam.
That's not even our name. They were trying to say you may not have heard of 034 because they're brand new, but my first marketing for big publicity thing got butchered. I live in Canada and bought a used B9 S4 with over 80,000 miles. What are the best upgrades, sway bars, and you'd highly recommend I could make to the vehicle if budget was a factor aside from ECU tuning? I'm not ready to ECU TCU tune my vehicle just yet. Well, I don't know what your roads are. When you say Canada, I think of, but you may live in a city that has good roads. But even if you have bad roads, you could still run our parts. I would strongly recommend 034 Dynamic Plus lowering springs, our sway bar package, and maybe some of our ZTF wheels, which are lightweight and forged for that application. Do some of our inserts and
intake.
Yeah, you could do the intake. I would recommend doing the intake once you're tuned, but you can still do the intake and it'll sound cooler. But I think if you start with some of those modifications, springs, sway bars, inserts, and then forged wheels, you're going to be off to a really nice start, and then you can start adding power as well. You can start adding power now or then. Also, there's what was the one other thing I was going to say? Our Dynamic Plus, brake rotors are also a great option if you need to do brake maintenance and change your brakes. I recommend doing those as well. All right. Somebody's complaining about the phone situation. Okay, so you say, it's not fun sending an email and waiting 3 days for a reply when I can just pick up the phone and talk to a human anywhere else and have my problem solved in 15 minutes. I don't think that's true.
That's a statement you cannot make for the.
Yeah, there's not many places that still pick up the phone, and if they do, you're not going to necessarily get a human and get your problem solved right away. Now, maybe really small companies with really small shops, it's possible. Yeah, I understand. We did that. We tried to do that for a long time.
Is 100% going to, depend on the problem being resolved. There's no like universal solution for everything, every question that comes in on the phone.
Yeah. We do make phone calls, so if you email us, we can set up a phone appointment if you really need to talk to somebody. We really do a better job through our email ticketing system. Everything is documented. There's no he said, she said. You can share like discrete information, and we can save it, reference it, and go back. I don't think, this is a real uncommon thing to do technical support through an email ticketing system. Again, we can still call you if you'd like, but if we did turn on phones, we would not be able to deal with the call volume of picking up phones and talking to people. And there is no scenario where you could call us and we would solve your problem in 5 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever. We are doing it the fastest, most efficient way we can. A lot of these questions don't have simple, quick answers, and they're not going to be solved in 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's almost always going to rely on some either an engineer or a status update from some other department. So there's no instant information that someone can grab that's going to solve almost. Yeah, I'd say probably 99% of the questions that come in.
Our engineers and calibrators aren't going to be sitting talking to people on the phones all day. That's not going to happen. So if you called, that information would have to try to be written down or documented, then relayed to an engineer. And it's still going to take a few days to get a response. So the way we're doing it isn't slower. I think there's a real misconception. And I think 99% of our customers are happy with it. There's a very vocal minority of people who I think have a misunderstanding of what it means to engage with the email ticketing system. Right now, our response times are strained because this is the busiest. We shove basically a month of business into 1 week. And so we're working our way out of that. But in general, we respond quickly and get customers taken care of. We track this, and I look at this number every week. But in most cases, in our customer service, we are servicing between 500 and 1,000 individual customers a week, every week. It's a lot. We would not be able to do that on the phone.
Let's take 1,000 times 15 minutes, and that'll give you an idea of the phone man time you'd be looking at.
Mm-hmm. I recently found some really nasty blowby in my PCV hoses on my B9 S4 while installing my SuperDuper system. Any updates on the B9 PCV? We're working on it. It's not ready. It will be ready when it's finished. It's currently in manufacturing.
And that's not necessarily blowby. That's oil vapor and stuff getting in through, through the breather system, which is not necessarily abnormal. That's how it's all kind of designed.
Yeah, blowby is different. Blowby means you have something wrong with your piston rings, and combustion pressure is coming out, in volume. There's going to be a normal amount of oil vapor inside your engine block and a normal amount of crankcase pressure inside your engine block. So the PCV system is simply designed to deal with the oil vapors and the crankcase pressure. There's probably nothing wrong with your car, but oil vapors do get out into the system, which is why we will offer a catch can to further reduce that. I just upgraded to stage 1 ECU and stage 2 TCU on my 2021 Audi S5. Why is the auto start stop not staying in the selection that I left it in consistently? I hate that auto startup and it comes back on randomly every week.
Yeah, send an email and that should be that setting should be persistent. So we'll just have to have a calibrate and look at it.
Someone's asking about flex fuel. We are planning on doing flex fuel. These are all advanced features that we're working on that we will release in the future. Could you guys also touch on bad signs of blow-by smell?
Same from that piece.
Yeah, so if you actually have blow-by, you're going to get a lot of oil pumping out of your motor. You're going to get probably oil being forced past your front and rear main seal. You're going to probably have a loss of power, reduction of performance.
If it's that bad, you'll have misfires and poor running conditions.
And you probably will end up getting smoke out of your tailpipe, things like that. Because once the piston rings are compromised, lots of combustion pressure comes out into engine block, and then oil is going to be getting back up into the combustion chamber. All those things are really bad. If your car runs great and feels strong, then I seriously don't have a problem with that. You could do a leak down test if you want to see how bad your blow-by is. Just tuned my B9 SQ5 and love it. And do I need to periodically check for tune updates, or will I be automatically notified?
We try and send out notifications if there's a reasonably large update that's come through on your box code. We will go through and pull a list of all the people that have flashed that and send updates out. Other than that, we'll post some periodic stuff if it's very completely optional update or a small update on our social media. But we're working on also making the app a little more proactive and letting you know, like, hey, there's a new file if you hop onto the app.
B9 S4, can the 93 file run on E15 to E30?
It's not something we recommend.
E15.
I'm not going to say it hasn't been done a large number of times. But,
E15 is at the pump in a lot
of the pumps are around E10 to E12.
But I think E30
is probably going to get you about there. Again, you may get, depending on the vehicle and the calibration, you might get some trim codes from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
But I know there are a number of people doing it, but we can't obviously say that's the right thing to do because it's not 93 octane.
Someone's asking about CREC updates.
Those are coming.
We are working on those.
The top one right there.
Yeah. Chris Murphy says, once I turned 40, the blow-by got considerably worse. I know, poor Jenny. It doesn't get any better, Chris. I'm sorry. Might be time to have your rings looked at. CREC update is coming. We are working on it. Yes, stay tuned. When's the app going to have variable units? No date on that, but we are working on rolling out a mobile update that will feature a number of updates.
There's going to be some updates coming.
Yeah, and we will notify you of that when we have that.
That is in there.
S5 B9 on stage 1 with 0 through 4. I have a sports exhaust and an RLine filter. Could I go stage 2 without any further hardware changes? No.
Yeah. Take a look at our list of what's required for stage 2.
We tell you exactly what's required, and like we always say, stage 2 is all around a high flow racing cat.
Yeah.
That's the entire purpose of stage 2.
What we generally would recommend though is stage 2 is for racing purposes. If you want to do, max out your setup, stage 1 with intercooler intake, and you've already got an exhaust in there. That'll get you, almost all the stage 2 claimed power.
Someone's asking about B9 RS5 boost tap. I do believe we have that in the works. We just released our B9 S4 3.0T boost tap. So this replaces the flange that mounts to factory's throttle body and gives you an 1/8" MPT provision here, which we provide a 1/8" threaded tap, 1/8" MPT tap that you can then use for a boost gauge or a number of other activities. Pretty simple device, very beautiful. You could like hang it around your neck at the club with a chain or something too. These are in stock and for sale, ready to ship. I believe we had a slight delay shipping them, but they should be shipping now.
Yeah, they should have shipped out.
Yeah. If I have a stage 1 tune from another company, do you recommend flashing back to my stock file before flashing to your new flash, or can I just flash from stage 1 software to your flash?
Yeah, so we can't universally answer that. There are some companies that kind of do break the flash routines.
Pressure.
We are working on implementing some more checks in our software to kind of see if we can figure out if something other than stock is on there. Sometimes you can find different IDs and that kind of thing. But in general, if there's any question, it's always safer to flash to stock first and then to ours. I know there's some like flashing from EPL software was terrible in some instances.
Yeah. Not a bad idea to go back to that thought.
Cobb can be a huge pain in the ass because they change security keys because they kind of shortcut a lot of the reverse engineering work and kind of funnel all these using a one box code under the hood. They don't tell you that, but that's what seems to be happening. And then they change the securities and a bunch of other stuff, so you can't just like no OEM tools or anything other than a Cobb tool can flash over it without security keys. So it's pretty annoying. So, but yeah, if you can, I would flash back to stock, and that gives you a nice known reference point that we're coming from.
Yeah. I was told it was dangerous to run E85 on hybrid turbos for the B9 3.0T because of fueling limitations, but completely safe on pump gas. Is there any truth to that? Can you elaborate? I wouldn't say that's true. It's definitely not 100% true. All the tunes that we offer are validated to be safe. There are fuel system limitations that we work with, and all of our tunes take into account any limitations. So
yeah, we're trying to keep well within the factory fueling limits. Yeah. Now, more fuel is being delivered. If there's something compromised on your setup, those limits are going to be lower, and maybe lower than what E85 can support. But it's generally not a, it's not like we're asking for more than what the stock fuel system can provide.
There's a previous video where we discuss some of the new updates that where we released the standard alpha file that may be helpful for them to watch. We talk a lot about the margin of safety between what you're doing and the limit. And one thing you have to accept is the further you push these motors, the more power you make, you are getting closer and closer to the limit. And so your margin of safety does shrink some amount. I talked a lot about what the margin of safety is, how it shrinks, what components or systems are involved in that video. But, you're always going to have more failures on a stage 3 tune compared to a stock turbo tune because everything's just being pushed harder and closer to the limit. That doesn't mean it's not safe. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be running it. There are some challenges with these motors at those power levels. Injector failures are one. Spark plug failures are another. The factory spark plugs are known to fail. If you are driving your car and you feel a misfire or something not good is happening, and you think you may have burnt a spark plug or you may have an injector that's failing.
Basically, anything just feels off.
Anything feels off. What I don't recommend is stopping and doing another quarter-mile run just to see if everything's okay.
If that was actually a thing.
And we had a customer do that recently and ended up blowing their motor because they had some compromised situation. If they had waited, they probably would have been okay. But when you're driving a factory car that's now making 750 to 800 crank horsepower, you're going to have to be a little more careful. I mean, that's more than double the factory power. And again, we determined that these tunes are safe, but and we have thousands of customers running them safely with great results. But that doesn't mean like once a month someone's not going to pop up with a blown motor because of some of these other variables, things that happen. So you are closer to the limit. Like bungee jumping is safe, but people die every year from it. Skydiving is safe, but people die every year from it because every once in a while the safety systems don't work, and so. Is it safer to bungee jump from 10 feet than 100 feet? Yeah. You have a much bigger margin of safety.
But how are you supposed to make sure everything's okay if you don't launch it immediately?
Right, in all caps.
It's diagnostics. Like something felt wrong, you need to slow down, just take a step back and figure it out. You don't just keep, pushing the thing that might be, might have an issue until it really has an issue.
Yeah. So if you're concerned about safety and the thought of damaging a motor just would bankrupt you or be very problematic for you, then I don't recommend, going with the 750 horsepower kit on your first shot. Do the stage 1. That's very safe.
And we also have a reduced torque or reduced output file for the,
yes,
basically all of the higher fuel demand files.
That's right.
For that reason.
For stage 3, we have high output and standard output files. The standard output files are safer just because they have more margin of safety built in.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the high output file is not unsafe, but you're riding right, next to the limit versus, having a buffer zone there.
Somebody's asking what's going on, what happened to cause the live. We have a live every Monday, or we try to anyway. So
yeah, I wonder why they think that. We have one every week.
We try to have one every week. Yep.
We didn't do one the week of Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving.
And yeah, I think Christmas week will be similar.
Mm-hmm. We probably miss 3 weeks a year.
Yeah.
So sorry, we only did 48 or 49 this year. They don't fail. You run them too hard. Only reason the plugs melt is because run them too lean. It's actually not true. Our tunes, our standard and our high output files do not run lean, and they don't run too lean.
If they did, it would be a engine wide problem. You would have more than a single cylinder event.
We recommend for these higher stressed applications running the brisk plugs. We've had better results with those than the factory plugs, and the plugs, they don't last forever. They have a greatly reduced lifespan. But spark plug isn't the only thing in the combustion chamber that can melt. Intake valves, exhaust valves, piston ringlands, the piston itself, the rings, all those things can be damaged by high heat. So if the only thing that's failing is the spark plug, and eventually something from the spark plug breaks off and damages your piston and combustion chamber because you keep running it, even though it's misfiring, that's not because it's too lean. That's because the spark plug failed, and now you've caused more damage.
Yeah. And again, if it was a tuning thing, it would be all of the cylinders would be affected the same way. You're working on an entire motor calibration here.
The safety of margin sacrifice longevity for power. In general, we haven't seen reduced longevity from running stage 3 high output tunes. So this would be like, is the motor wearing out faster? Do the piston rings wear out faster? Do the main and rod bearings wear out faster? Do the cylinder walls wear out faster? Do the valves wear faster because of the increased stress? And it's hard to say. I mean, maybe these motors could go for like 500,000 miles, but because of stage 3 tuning, they only go 200. I mean, we won't know that for years and years and years, but yeah, we've had stage 3 turbo kits on the market for several years now, and we're just not seeing customers wearing
anywhere,
including our in-house cars, which one of our in-house cars has like 50,000 miles on stage 3, and it has excellent leak down and compression numbers, like very, very good.
Yep.
So no, I don't think that's the issue. The issue is more if you have a component failure that's supporting the output of the motor, and then it runs lean for some reason because your injector is clogged or stopped firing or is only firing at 50%. That's when the bad things can happen. But it's quite rare on our tuning. I'm saving up for a B9 S4. I can't wait to buy y'all's products. Awesome. That's a well-established product line. That's been out for since the
Since the B5 S4.
We really started releasing a lot of 2.7 products in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. So
yeah, a bunch of fun stuff came out then when the cars were really getting to like heavy modding.
Someone's asking about this B8 SuperDuper throttle body adapter here. So we just released this recently with. This is not a new product, but we normally sell it in a SuperDuper kit that comes with, either a throttle body or the connector hose and everything you need. We are now just selling this by itself with a gasket, right? And this is for anyone who has a SuperDuper and wants to port one and have a ported one to work with a ported supercharger. You will need an extra one to send it off and have it ported. And now you can just buy the adapter by itself for what, $190 with the gasket. It's on sale right now, 10% off. So not a new product, but we are selling the subcomponent by itself to help support the big porting industry. So big porting did some lobbying here, and small porting lost out.
Laszlo had a question. When are you going to run for office?
Public office. Yeah.
I'd like to. I'd like Laszlo to manage my campaign.
Oh, it'd be the campaign.
Yeah. Honestly, if you think about it, I mean,
oh goodness,
I don't know if running for public office would be much more stressful than what I deal with on a day-to-day basis with online attacks and disparaging and digging up my past and questioning everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've had actually people look me up, like my legal records and lawsuits I've been in, and so I mean it's actually not that different, and I've withstand and dealt with the stress. So let's do it, Laszlo. Laszlo knows people too now in Oklahoma. What's the max boost possible to achieve on TTE810 E60 tune? I currently see 2.1 bar as max value.
There is no, I mean, the maximum boost you're going to see is going to depend on your environmental conditions. So in colder weather, you're going to get much lower maximum numbers than you are going to say, for example, on a hotter day, or it's all going to try to work out the maximum amount of, or the proper amount of air getting into the cylinder for the desired torque, which is what we're requesting. So
there's no set amount of boost. The ECU decides
2.1 bar boost sounds normal to me. So
yeah, it's within a normal range. Someone's asking about VR6 Atlas product. I don't think it's going to happen.
A turbo kit. I don't think we're going to be doing Atlas
or a turbo kit.
Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, sounds fun though. We did VR6 turbo kits and they were okay.
The ITBs.
Oh, the ITB manifold. I'm like,
I think somebody was that Skoda was asking about that recently. Yeah, he emailed me like last year or earlier this year.
Like something.
Can you bring that product back? Yeah, here's what it is. Will B9 SQ5 springs fit a Q5 2.0T? I mean, they will physically fit on the car, but they won't have the right rates.
Your engine weights are going to be very different.
The front of the car will probably sit too high, so I don't think it does. We don't list that.
Or you throw a bunch of like sandbags around it or something. Get it.
Yeah. Do you sell your stainless steel brake lines individually? Upgrading my C7 A6 front brakes to the S6 Brembo brakes, but keeping stock rear calipers. I assume the S6 brake lines won't be applicable for the stock A6. We do not. There's really no way we could do that. And they're not that expensive. I think it's $100 some for. I think you would just buy the kit and then use what you need. I'm sorry, we can't split everything up like that. That would be like, going to the grocery store and asking if you can buy one Skittle. They just don't sell them that way, unfortunately.
You can at the M&M store in Vegas, though.
Have you ever seen that movie, Better Off Dead? He's like, how much for one rib? Chris Rock. B9.5 RS5, stage 1 with TCU patch, looking at stage 3 soon. Anything new coming down the pike for intercooler heat exchanger options, or is the Wagner kit still the best option? The Wagner kit is an excellent option. We've had no complaints with it on our in-house car and with the testing we've done. Looks like APR knocked off the Wagner intercooler, but did not knock off the heat exchanger. So they're offering a pretty ridiculous, incapable kit. I don't know who over there is like thought that was a good idea to offer half the kit, but that intercooler system is the intercooler or heat, the intercooler device,
the air to water
intercooler removes the heat from the intake charge and puts it into the water. And the water is now filled with heat, and the water has to go somewhere to get rid of all the heat, which is the heat exchanger on the front of the car. The factory heat exchanger is very small. So what's going to happen with the APR intercooler is you're going to get superheated water that's going to go through the stock heat exchanger and get not nearly enough of the heat removed from it and come back, and you're just going to be circulating hot water through this bigger intercooler. It's really dumb. The Wagner kit is excellent. I think in the future you will see probably some more air-to-air options that will free up, the heat out of the coolant and dump the air to atmospheric. Dump the heat to atmospheric airflow. But if you want to get into something, I would say, and start enjoying your car for the next year, I would just jump on the Wagner kit. It's very good.
Yeah, it's been a great kit.
They didn't copy anyone. It was funny. Carson Wagner went in their thread. I know. It was like, oh, good job, guys.
Yeah, totally. Every little bong and wire clip mounting provision it's not a structural thing. It's not a vehicle constraint thing. It's like this is just where you put the hose clamp or something. Boss, and it's just there on the APR one as well.
What will you develop as a fueling upgrade for B9? Bigger injectors or second row of injectors? Now, we've discussed this. There's really no way to add a secondary injector to the B9 because there's no intake manifold. There's just a plenum.
Yeah, not without some pretty invasive work on the motor.
You'd have to machine the cylinder head for extra injectors. So we are working on some bigger, direct injector options that we're testing right now, which are working very nicely.
Yeah, I mean they're in the car on the dyno right now.
Fueling limitations for the B9 will be a thing of the past soon. To further develop power for that 1,000 horsepower plus future that's out there. Someone says my order is taking forever. Sorry to hear about that. Please shoot an email to contact@034 Motorsport for a status. They can give you an estimated date of shipments. It's likely that whatever you're waiting on is out of stock, and we are working hard to bring it back in stock. It could be that it just needs to go through our manufacturing department. It could be that we're waiting for the raw materials. But contact@034motorsport.com will be able to give you all the information you need about that and address any of your concerns. Just want to say you guys are doing an amazing job. Even though my car is still down at the body shop, I still wanted to give a virtual high five while I wait. Keep killing it, guys. Oh, well, thank you for being so positive despite your car being down. Appreciate the positive words.
Somebody thinks we're using S8 injectors for the B9. No, these aren't factory injectors.
No, I mean they're not that much bigger. None of the factory injectors are big enough. We're already using, RS5 injectors. The other thing I think people get wrong is the S8 is a 4.0T, it's a V8. So the injectors don't need to be much bigger because you have 2 more cylinders with 2 more injectors. So the V8s make more power by producing more combustion energy through 2 additional cylinders. So,
the power per liter is what you really need to look at when you're sizing
the specific output isn't really any different. And then people are like, well, what about R8 V10 injectors? Well, those are even smaller because
they're teeny little injectors.
They're normally aspirated, and there's 10 of them. So,
so they still support the new ones, anyways.
They had port, yeah. That's pretty cool. What's this top question? I know.
Oh, somebody's asking, can you make a gauge for the mobile app that would show the delta between requested versus actual? For example, something like that. So that is something we are working on, and I've been proponent for this for a bit. It's just in the mix of everything else we're working on. So you'd have a gauge with 2 inputs that would give you a target and an actual, and you could see some different things based on that.
Have you all ever encountered air bubbles making their way into the fuel system? If so, what are some causes for this issue that you have seen dealt with? No.
Well, yeah, I mean, fuel starvation. If you get tank slosh, if you get that kind of thing, but that's
not air bubble.
that's
actually complete lack of air, lack of fuel. I mean, in general, there should be no air in your fuel system as long as you have fuel. Like what Nate was talking about was like the pump running out of fuel and then pumping air.
Yep.
But that's not air bubbles. I mean, that's air being pumped. There should never be air bubbles once you, say install a brand new fuel system with new fuel lines and injectors. The whole fuel system is empty. You turn on the pump, you crank the engine, the injectors start pulsing. Initially, the injectors are just, pushing out air as the fuel pump pushes fuel up the fuel lines through the system. And then eventually all the air gets forced out through the injectors, which is why it would take a little bit longer. You'd have to crank for a little bit and the fuel system's going to prime. There's still going to be some air get pushed out.
Yeah, it's going to burp through the injector.
Yeah.
Whether, it's a closed system.
But after that, there's going to be no air. You have the fuel pump sitting at the bottom of your fuel tank. Air rises, so there's no air going into the pump. The system is air free. So I'd like to be interesting to hear what you're dealing with, but it sounds like not a normal thing.
And guys, you don't need to ask the same question 4 times over, maybe 5 times. Oh, 6 times. No, 6 times. Okay. We are getting to questions. They're coming in from 3 different places. We see your question. You don't need to keep hammering it. It's going into a list.
Okay. Got that one done. Have you guys figured out the issue with the CREC cars losing power from digs with the 2nd to 3rd gear shift?
We know about this. It's something we need a vehicle here for a bit of time to really go through and get it ironed out. That's kind of the hang up right now is a vehicle that we can sit a calibrator in for a week or so and get it all ironed out.
There's a video on YouTube with a 2019 RS5 rear diff blowing up during launching on IE's Stage 1 E85. Should I be worried with 0 through 4 Stage 1?
So this is
no.
One of the things we have
not worried.
I'm not worried, but no, we have a specific torque strategy for launching that is limiting the axle torque during the launch. We were looking at bringing that up a little bit because people have been requesting it, but this is one of the trade-offs you have to look at is just how much torque you're putting through that axle.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to this level of power and you're doing launches, something can always break.
Mm-hmm.
We've
launched this.
We haven't broken a rear diff on our RS5. We did have one that started to become faulty. It started whining. It's hard to say.
It was never. We never had a conclusion on that.
It didn't blow up though.
Usually that was during road course stuff.
Yeah. So no, it's we haven't heard of reported cases of this. Could you blow up a RS5 rear diff if you deliver too much torque to it? Absolutely. We control precisely the amount of torque that the engine produces to keep the engine from breaking all kinds of stuff in the car. So yeah, no, I don't know what IE did. I know APR has blown up some transmissions and diffs too on their cars. We haven't really had that problem. Can I use a 100 RON E10 fuel with 93 tune map here in Brazil, or can I use a 91 map Audi SQ5 B9 Stage 1?
It's hard to say. The regional fuel can vary quite a bit. I would just start with 91, get some logs, and if it's like perfectly clean and no knock activity whatsoever, do the same with a 93, take a look at the log, and kind of get a feel for where things are at. But I would, based on what you're saying there, 100 RON fuel should be totally fine on a 93 map. That we're able to get you the actual data to tell you for sure if it is or not.
What's the recommended engine oil for tracked B9 Audi RS5? I mean, generally, I would say the factory recommendation. If you,
we usually run a little heavier oil.
If you're putting more load in it, I mean, if you're like Stage 3 or something, then you could go with the SQ5 weight oil, which is a little bit heavier.
Yeah, it's
1030,
I think, or something.
So all the E839s are the same. They're all 020. I think the RS5 is 030.
Yeah,
so it already has.
All of our cars are 540.
540. So
Yeah.
It's going to depend too on what kind of conditions you're running in. So that's not a one size fits all answer.
Yeah, and I mean, engine oil weight has a lot to do with temperatures.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
In addition to load. So, in the end of the day, you're going to be okay as long as you.
I don't think I've seen anyone have an oiling
sensible
related issue on track with these.
I mean, I wouldn't throw like
just temperature
stuff, but that's not. Yeah, that's not.
I wouldn't throw like 50 weight in there, from a tractor or something. But what's next for mobile tuning? Any cool features being worked on? Yes, we have a whole. Well, we have a long and
it's a very long list of things we're going to be adding
of updates, but we are working. So our team has been working relentlessly, continue to work on the app after the release, and the app currently right now has lots of cool updates, and so I believe we'll be meeting this week to kind of nail down what the first update is, which will be adding a lot of cool features and functionality in addition maybe to fixing any bugs. I mean, we've been fixing stuff along the way. Right?
Oh, there's been some interim stuff that we just accounting for different situations, little bug fix stuff here and there.
Yeah,
I think we moved some of the data logging stuff around a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's been just some housekeeping stuff more than anything.
Yeah. But I think the coolest thing is we're adding like a Tinder functionality, so you can like turn right if you want to hook up with someone, turn left if you don't, So lots of cool stuff.
The NASCAR guy's gonna be left out.
Yeah. Just changes the kind of tracks you want to drive on.
Jimmy's going back.
If you're super horny, you just go to a clockwise circle track and you just turn.
Yeah, you just turn
right. Yeah. Hey, just got my 034 app and dongle. How do I change the reading on the app from C to kilometers to F and miles per hour?
So many ways to ask the same question. Yeah, we're working. You'll have the availability to change units on all the measurements soon. So,
someone's asking about B9 3.0 T pistons. They are on the way to us. We will be releasing them shortly. Very nice. Fully forged JE piston that we will release as soon as they're in stock. Mark A GTI 034 tune versus the competition on reliability.
Oh, I mean, I can't speak for any of the competition's
reliability. I haven't heard about any major reliability issues on competitors. Ours has been excellent. Our in-house car has been flawless. No reports from customers of any.
I can't think off the top of my head of anything at all, like zero issues.
No. We can always speak for ourselves, and we say our tune is very reliable. Yeah. If there was a reliability problem, we would have jumped on it and given it full priority to fix it. We would have taken responsibility ourselves, and
we've been on
not blamed Audi.
A handful of tracks, a number of times with our cars. So we try and find all those limits.
I noticed when going wide open throttle and feeling a violent jerking sensation. Check engine light went on briefly and then turned off. Yes. I logged misfires on cylinders 4 and 6. Running stage 1 E85, stage 2 TC.
Yeah, so this goes back to kind of the beginning of our conversation today. Is we need to stop doing that.
Yeah,
and
do that.
Let's figure out what's causing it on a stage 1 file. So, we'll have to take a look at some of your plugs and whatnot. Take a look at some logs and just see what is creating that situation.
Yeah, violent jerking off is not recommended. I mean, jerking is not recommended.
Neither of those.
Definitely want to
control it.
Make it less violent. Slower.
No misfires.
Yeah, more comforting. What is the next platform that will be getting a tune from you guys? Oh god, this is an update question.
Yep. They're sneaking them in here.
Yeah. I don't know. Are we eminently about to release something? We're working on lots of different
platform wise. I mean, it's going to be a toss up between. C8 A6 is going to be coming soon.
We do have a B9 A4 tune in the works.
B9 A4 is very in the works.
4M Q7 is in the works. Q8 is in the works.
3-liter Q8 stuff.
Yes. So lots of cool stuff coming, guys. Do you recommend upgrading the stock intercooler for stage 1? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We already said the stock tune should have an upgraded intercooler. So, but yes, I don't know what we're talking about here, but on a B9 3.0 T like S4, S5, if you do stage 1 and you do the intercooler, which we offer the Wagner, and you do our intake, you will get about 75% of the stage 2 power gains on stage 1. So it's a very good thing to do. And not only does it increase the power, but the consistency of the power. So you can do pulls consistently, pull after pull.
Consistently.
Woof woof, 10-minute warning. Last call for questions.
All right.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks for moderating there.
Thank you for the woofs.
There, yeah.
Why do I always get low coolant alarms on my B9 S5? I just unscrew the cap, a bunch of air comes out, and then it goes away. Almost everyday occurrence.
Yeah, I think you explained it right there. It sounds like you got a big air bubble in there somewhere. It needs a proper bleed.
Well, or what about head gaskets? If you're stage 3.
If it's just burping like that, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. We need more information on it. It could be if you're a really high strung out setup and hammering on it when this occurs. It could be a head gasket thing. But yeah, there's some other stuff in there. It could just need to be bled. For some reason it got some air in the system if you had parts off or who knows what. Or it could be a water pump on its way out and that's leaking and introducing air.
Yeah, definitely making sure
It doesn't sound like he's adding coolant. It sounds like he's just burping it, and then the level in the reservoir comes up because the air expands somewhere else.
Yeah, getting these newer motors to bleed can be very challenging.
Yeah.
I remember the old 10 valve days. You just fill up one hose, you plug it in, and you just run it, and then you go back. You drive for 5 minutes, and you come back, and you just add some, and it's done. But the new cars, there's very specific procedures. Air can get trapped on all sorts of, the cylinder heads on these cars are much more complex and more effective.
Yeah, well, and there's a bunch of auxiliary pumps that can pump the water all over the place. You got to run those and cycle those when you're bleeding.
We've even struggled with it here, getting some of the motors bled. So there are tools that you can use to pressurize the system or to suck air out and things like that. Is stage 1 ECU tune on DAZA safe to run on stock TCU for track use? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, those tunes have trillion hours of track time.
Many hours of track time.
Very, very safe. Very fun. I think a stage 1 DAZA is a riot on track.
Yeah. I mean, the tune TCU is definitely nice, though.
Yes.
No doubt about it.
I would do the TCU as well. Also very safe. But you're going to get much better shifting. Is there any benefit to tuning through the laptop versus mobile device?
I mean, not really. No.
I mean, if you use the laptop, then you can still use TikTok on your phone.
Yeah, that's fair. If you can't put your phone down long enough while you're flashing, that's fine.
But we do not recommend watching TikTok while your car is flashing.
No, please leave it alone. Let the app do its thing.
You are going to literally have to hold your phone and not use it for
anything. Put it on the dash and you can look at it.
Yes.
Don't touch it.
So it's going to be very stressful.
Start going through.
There'll be a lot of anxiety. A lot of FOMO. Are you excited for the future B10 Audis? Yes and no. I think the new upcoming models are always it's a little bit like Groundhog's Day. We've been doing this for a long time. I mean, we entered the market with vintage Audis, and then the B5 really kind of hit. And so we did B5 stuff, then the B6, then the B7, then the B8, and the B9.
The B6 I want to forget about.
Yeah. It's the challenge is that we never know like what kind of curveballs we're going to get thrown. So if the B10 hits and it's immediately tunable and we can start developing and offering products for it, then that's great.
Yep.
But some like with B9 the ECU was locked pretty good for like the first 3+ years, 4 years.
Yep.
So that becomes challenging. So yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how exciting it is for all of us. I don't think we'll know until we see a car. You don't always even know. Like Audi says a lot of things, and through automotive journalism about what the cars are going to be, and then you have no idea until you see them at the dealership. So
it's complete speculation until you actually get a car in your hands.
need to smog my race car with a TTE810. Do I need to swap back? Yes, all smogging needs to be done with stock components.
Yeah, that's not a...
That car would probably pass tailpipe with an 810 and stock injectors and a stock tune and stock cat. But the only thing we can recommend is to be emissions legal. You need to have all the factory parts. When you're racing, it's not an issue, but
it's not
when you're on the street, all those emissions components need to be just like factory. Now, some states you can just pass tailpipe, or even our stage 3 tunes will deliver a very good tailpipe number. But depends what the regulations are. Having a B9 S4, should I install both subframe and trans insert mounts when going stage 2, or is one more important than the other? It just depends, what level of stiffness and control you want. We recommend all the inserts for the most locked down drivetrain. You could try putting some in and seeing how you like it. And most of these are easy to have. The subframe inserts are a little bit more, but the trans inserts are very popular. And for the trans inserts, you want to do the transmission insert first, then the stage 2 mounts. But I would recommend running both of those for most applications. IS38 Turbo, EA888 A3 tunes, please. Okay, noted. Looking at a stage 2 suspension for a B9 with the lowering, will I be able to keep my 19-inch wheels on? Yes, if they have it like a correct offset and tire sizing, absolutely. We test and develop all of our springs with factory wheels and tires and upgrades as well. But if you have some some wheel that's like 10 mil off on the offset, you're gonna have less margin, for rubbing. So when you lower the car, everything has to be in the right place to ensure there's no rubbing, and it's not a problem with the correct fitting wheels. Does the S34 open box intake have a benefit over the P34 closed box one? I'm currently running a closed box P34 intake. Prior to all this, I had a CTS one, which caused a lot of heat soak. The P34 is a very high-flowing unit that currently supports stage 3 power levels. The S34 SuperDuper for the B9 is an intake that has kind of like unlimited future upgrade potential. The air filter and intake itself can support well over 1,000 horsepower of flow. And so it's kind of future-proofing your intakes. The more open version is also going to let more sounds out. So it is going to be louder, probably more like what you experience with your CTS. So don't expect a huge power difference or increase, but it would be louder. And then if you'd like to continue to upgrade your car for the future, you would have the option to do that. Keep in mind too, our S34s are open, but they're not open to the engine compartment heat. They are shielded from engine compartment heat, and they still draw cool air in from the front of the car and through all the factory provisions. So all of our intakes are cold air intakes, but by enclosing the air filters, we can control the sound more, and that's really what you're playing with there. Full frames and build motors coming soon for B9, B9.5. What can we expect numbers-wise? I don't know if full frames will be necessary to go to the next level, but yes, bigger turbos and built motors. I think the goal would be to get to 1,000 crank. Say 850 wheel range with builds like that. That would be kind of the next phase or epoch of B9 3.0 T tuning. The question, is then what's going on with the transmission? Can the transmission hold that kind of power? Other axles and diffs, and so far we've been pretty lucky that the rest of the car has kept up with some pretty ridiculous power. All right, we are kind of out of time. If I buy your rear sway bar, what's the difference between using stock end links and yours? Our end links are much more durable and stronger than factory end links, which can break when trying to deal with our stiffer sway bars. All of our end links are also adjustable, so you can take any preload out of the sway bar. So I strongly recommend getting our end links just so you don't have it break or have an issue when you're in the middle of a corner, which would really unsettle the car. I think we did pretty good, but should we keep going? Or?
No.
What's up, 0 through 4? Another company has an E60 tune for ported 1320 blowers on the C7 B8 cars with plus 120 horsepower over E40. Any plans for a ported blower specific tune?
I would strongly question the testing methods if that's what they're claiming on that.
There's no way that blower has that.
There's not 120 horsepower and 100 foot-pounds of torque.
Not just from porting.
From porting between, and then a little splash of ethanol. Like,
bring that car here.
Yeah,
we'll tell you.
Certainly, this is the problem. And this is a really challenging part of providing information for these cars at this point. Is the tuning landscape is just wide open. So the mods, the configurations that all the cars are in, it's something we struggle with on every one of these releases, and the Merc Racing stuff as well is, what exact configuration are you going to try and reference and use as a baseline and compare numbers against? Because is it like some big ported car? Is it a stock blower car? Is it a what fuel, what mods, what this and that? So if they were comparing two different cars, which are also going to be very different, I have no idea, but I would be very skeptical if somebody's claiming that wild of a change just with a file for a ported blower, which is almost insignificant at the ECU side for calibration work.
The ported blower, it could make another 10, 20.
Oh no, it's making more power, but it's also your measured, manifold pressures before and after, your air temps and all that. That's already taken into account. It's not some magical ported blower knob in the calibration that needs to get tweaked. The metrics of the air coming in are different, and the ECU can account for that. So there's not 100 horsepower sitting on the table you can just perk up. My guess is if they're getting any more power reasonably, they're probably turning down some sort of safety thing and just pushing timing to the moon.
Yeah. Let's do two last ones and then we'll be done. Are you guys going to continue stocking B9 S4 parts, or will you guys be moving other direction in the future? We continue to stock and sell any parts that people buy.
Yeah.
We literally have parts that in stock on our website that fit 1970s Audis. So if you guys buy it, we will keep it. Our B5 sales are still quite good. There have been some B5 parts that we discontinued, but not many. We pretty much still have a full catalog. We used to have a lot of turbo kits, stuff like that we discontinued years ago.
We pulled some of the tuning down because that was all manual.
Some of the tuning,
if and when that ever hits the server,
we sell a ton of intakes. We sell a ton of B5 suspension stuff.
And the tuning thing,
the mounts are still one of the top selling products we have.
Yeah, the tuning may come back. It's just a labor thing. It wasn't worth it to do all these by hand. And once we get if and when we get the server spun up for it, we'll just turn it back on there.
But so keep buying our B5 stuff, guys, and we will keep stocking and selling.
Yeah. Someone's asking what's the best RPM to set my launch control. Well, that's why we make it adjustable on a lot of these cars.
Depends.
It's got to depend on your tire, your road, your
production, the day. Someone wants to flash their loaner SQ5. You could probably.
We do have a 30-day money back.
We have a 30-day money back. So that's kind of.
I hate to do that.
We're not promoting that.
That's not what it's for.
No.
I don't know what to tell you, but
go buy one if you like it, and then flash.
If you want to have a lot of fun with one, they're on sale, and you can just.
This one's Turo car instead, not a dealer car.
Last question. When I flashed my DSG on my B9.5 S4, I went to do a pull and the EPC light kicked on and put my S4 into limp mode, went home and reflashed, and I've had issues since.
Yeah, so unfortunately you kind of killed any chance of diagnosing that EPC when you reflashed it. So flashing over the same flash is not how you fix things. The ECU, the TCU, all of the files that get loaded are checksummed on every single bit of data in that ECU or in that memory. And if that is wrong in any way, it won't run. Like it's either like the computer either works or it doesn't. It doesn't have like half of a file or some sour calibration or something in it.
With that said, though, it's not doing it anymore. So,
well, who knows though? Yeah, it could have been you. That's the first time you saw that much load because now you've got an unlocked TCU, so you got all the torque. So your ignition system showed some sort of compromise. We'll just have to wait to see if it rears its head again. But the reason I say you remove the diagnostic capability is when you flash these ECUs, the fault codes have to be cleared before and after. So that does it. Actually, now that I'm thinking about that, we will log fault codes if you flash it through our server. Shoot a message tuning at around when it happened, and we can actually look at those fault codes for you. Yeah. So now that I'm thinking about the whole situation.
Well, we got through all the questions, I think. Man,
there was a couple of guys that were hammering some update questions.
Those don't count.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We do our best with the updates, but no guarantees.
And you don't need to keep hammering it 15 times.
Yeah.
Where you're just stuck.
We did go extra long, though, so we cheated. All right. Cheers, guys. I think we will see you next week.
So.
Yeah. All right. See you later.